All right. Hello everyone and welcome to this webinar on solving a sample code Vita problem. This is another video in our series of problems that we will solve before code Vita, and we will keep increasing the number of videos as we keep going ahead with as we keep coming closer to code Vita. I am really glad and delighted to have you online, and I can see that you are also excited to be part of this webinar and to solve a sample code Vita problem. So in this video, what I'm going to do is in front of you live, we are going to see a sample problem, that is the min product arrays problem, and explain it to you. We'll understand how to solve it. We'll look at the logic one by one, and then we'll see how we can actually write the code for it. Okay, so just before I start, again, the last thing that I want to say is please make sure that you share this video with your friends so that even they can watch it, even they can go through it. The best part is at the end of this session, I will be doing a Q&A. That's a question answer session. So I will be doing a Q&A session at the end of this video, and I'll be if you are online and if your friends are online, then they can ask their live questions. They can ask whatever doubts they have. So I'll be beginning right now. I'll be beginning the session right now. Okay, so what is the problem that we are even going to do? And the name of the problem is called minimum product array, and it was asked in Code Vita 2016. So before I even start with the problem, the first thing that I want to tell you all is what are even the topics that are going to be asked in Code Vita? Like, I get this question a lot. What should we prepare for Code Vita? So even before I start this problem, let me talk to you a little bit about the topics that you can expect, and then we'll go directly into this problem. So the topics that you can expect in Code Vita are of these 8 topics. So there are about 6 to 8 topics. That's it. And we have analyzed all of the previous year's Code Vita questions, and based on that, we are telling you this. So that is, I've gone through all of the 80 or 90 previous Code Vita questions, and we've analyzed them, and we've seen each one of them over here, and we've categorized them into different topics. So just taking 5 minutes and talking about each of these topics. The first topic is maths. What happens in maths? Well, in maths, there are 2 types of questions again. One of them will be like a game-like question. So you might be given a game, and you will be told who wins in this game. Depending on some rules, you have to decide who will win. For example, the game could be something like rock, paper, scissors. You might have played that game with your friends. You are given certain rules of the game. You're told that there are 2 players, and you have to, based on the input, tell who is actually going to win. Okay. The other type of question that is there in maths is the question of anything to do with prime numbers. So they might ask you to actually find out those prime numbers that are a sum of the previous prime numbers. For example, 5 is a sum of 2 and 3. 5 is a prime number, 2 is a prime number, 3 is a prime number. Similarly, 17 is the sum of 2, 3, 5, 7. So all of 2, 3, 5, and 7 all are prime numbers. So these kind of questions are asked in maths, and we cover much more of these questions on the Edyst platform. Then there are questions related to calculations. To get a better idea of what are these questions related to calculations, there are very decimal based questions. So if you want to get an idea of those questions, you can go and check the previous webinar that I did, that is called the bank compare. So that is one question that was asked previously. I think it was asked in 2018, Code Vita 2018, and it is based completely on calculations. So those are the type of questions that can be asked in calculations. In arrays, you will be given either a 1D or a 2D array, and you will be asked to solve a problem. It will be very logical based. So today we are going to cover a 1D array problem, and the problem's name is min product array. Code Vita 2016 it was asked. We are going to cover a 1D array problem. On Saturday, that is day after tomorrow, we are going to cover a 2D array problem, and that is called Chakraview. So we're going to cover a 2D array problem on Saturday, and so stay tuned for that. Then there are questions related to strings. So this is generally string manipulation. Find the palindrome, find the anagram, and more variants or more combinations of those type of questions. Then there are questions related to searching and sorting, backtracking, recursion, and graphs. If you are a beginner and you have not really done too much on backtracking, recursion, and graphs, I will suggest you avoid it for now. It is generally the tougher questions that come on backtracking, recursion, and graphs. If you are a beginner level student, I will suggest that you focused only on these 5 topics. That is maths, calculations, arrays, strings, searching, and sorting. So maths and calculations, both of these sample problems I have covered in the previous webinars. You can go and check them. Today I will be covering an arrays problem, and on Saturday I will be covering a 2D arrays problem. For strings problems, we'll probably do it next week. And for solutions and for tutorials on all of these topics, we already have them on the Edyst platform, so you can log in over there and check also. I'll give you more details about that soon. So that is the topics that you have to prepare for Code Vita. And if you have any doubts or questions about these topics, just hold on to them. We will be coming back to them towards the end of this webinar. All right. That's what we will be doing. Now, to begin with, let's go ahead and look at our question, which is called min product array. It was asked in Code Vita 2016. So what exactly does this question say? Well, let's read the question first, and then I will break down the question for you. And so this question is, I've kept it open on the Edyst platform. It is in the same way that it was asked in Code Vita. So we'll just open it up on the Edyst platform. Let me just do that. Okay, so I have it open on the Edyst platform over here, and let's just read the question. So the question says the task is to find the minimum sum of products of two arrays of the same size. So already we know that we have to find the sum of the products of the array. It's not given us too much detail yet, but already we know it has something to do with finding the sum and finding the product. Given that k modifications are allowed on the first array. So we have two arrays. The first array has around the first array can be modified. The second array may not be modified. So so we are told that we can modify the first array and the second array can't be modified. Okay, all right. So I'll just increase the text size so that you can all read. Anyways, so the task is to find the minimum sum of products of two arrays given that k modifications are allowed in the first array. In each modification, one array element of the first array can either be increased or decreased by 2. So for example, the product sum is the summation of ai into bi. Okay. So before we get to the input format, this is what we understand of the question. We are given two arrays. In the two arrays, one of the array can be modified, the other array cannot be modified. And we have to find out the minimum product possible minimum sum possible when you take the product of each number, such that you can only modify the first array. And how can you modify the first array? In each modification, you can only increase or decrease by 2, and you're allowed a limited number of modifications. Now, if I'm a student just like you, I will be like, wow, this is too confusing. This is too much information at the same time. That's why I said, take a piece of paper and take a pen and follow along over here what I'm saying. Whenever you're given such a problem, don't try to go into the code. In fact, the last thing that I do is code. Before coding, I try to solve everything else. I try to solve the logic. I try to break down the code into different parts so that when I'm actually going to code, the logic will tell me what we are going to code. So the first thing I do is actually try to get the pseudo code for the question. So that's what we are going to do. Before we even write the code, we're going to get the pseudo code. And before we even get the pseudo code, we are actually going to get the logic. Okay, so to get the logic, we have to understand the question. All right, what is the question? Well, you can read it once or twice again, but let me just break down the question for you, which I have done over here. So I'm just breaking down the question. So what the question says is, let's take this example. You're given two arrays. In the input, you will be first given the size of the array, which over here is 3. So the size of the array is 3. So both the arrays, this is the first array, array A, this is the second array, array B. Array A is 1, 2, minus 3. It is of size 3, which is given over here. What you're also given is K. K tells you that you can modify the first array at most K number of times, which means in this array 1, 2, minus 3, this is the only one that can be modified. You can't touch minus 2, 3, minus 5. You can't touch this array. But the array 1, 2, minus 3 can be modified. And in this array, we can make at most 5 modifications. So using those 5 modifications, how can we change this array such that the sum of the products is minimum? What is the meaning of the sum of the products? Well, currently, without any modification, this is what the sum of the product means. The sum of the product is -2 plus 6 plus 15. What is that? Well, -2 is 1 into -2. Um, 6 is 2 into 3, so you have 2 into 3 over here, and 15 is -3 into -5. So when you take the sum of the products of A and B, that is, this is array A, this is array B. If you multiply array AI and BI, that is 1 into -2 is -2, 2 into 3 is 6, which is 6 over here, and -3 into -5 is 15. So when I do -2 plus 6 plus 15, it is equal to 19. Okay. So this is as per the original array. We are told we can make up to 5 modifications in the first array, that is array A, which is modifiable. We can make 5 modifications, and with those 5 modifications we have to find out what is the minimum sum possible, that is the minimum sum of the products. Okay. Now when you're given such a question, first thing you should do is try out without any algorithm, just by random try hit and error method, just trial and error method. Try your best to find out the solution. This is exactly what I did, and with the given answer, with the given input, I found the answer that if we if we increase -3 by 5 modifications, that is, if we increase this -3 number by 5 modifications, it will become 7. How did it become 7? We added -3, we added 2 to it 5 times. So it will become -3 plus 10, which is equal to 7. So we kept adding 2 to -3. So -3 plus 2 is -1, plus 2 is 1, plus 2 is 3, plus 2 is 5, and plus 2 is 7. We kept adding 2 to -3, and once we did that, we changed it to 7. When we change it to 7, the sum of the products becomes 1 into -2, which is -2, plus 2 into 3, which is 6, plus 7 into -5, which is -35. When you do -35 plus 6 minus 2, you will get -31. Okay. Now, no matter what other modifications you had done in array A, you would not have got a sum lesser than -31. If you're confused, I will tell you, pause the video right now, try it out, and then come and resume the video a little bit later. But you will not get a more or a lesser product or a lesser sum than -31. So our task here is really, what modifications are we supposed to make in our first array? How many modifications, or which modifications should we make in our first array such that the sum of the products of both the arrays becomes the least possible? Okay. So the first question you should ask, the first question you should think of is, well, which k modifications should we do? Like today over here we had about 5 possible modifications, but really, which are the k modifications that we should do? If we had 10, which 10 modifications should we be doing? And just again, I'll fast forward a little bit. This is for you to think about. The best thing to do is pick one element and attack it, because again, this is product. So a product of, you will have a number A, a number B, a number C. If you can reduce one of these numbers by the maximum amount, then your product will also decrease by the maximum amount. Instead of doing, let's say, one modification in A, one modification in B, one modification in C, try to do all your modifications in one of the numbers and get the product. That is the strategy that we are going to use. So what we're going to do is, we're going to attack a single element and attack that element and make k modifications to it. Either we'll decrease the element, or we'll increase the element. Okay. We don't know which one we'll do, but either we'll increase or decrease the element, but we'll attack that single element, because attacking that single element will change the product in the best way. Okay. So that's what we're going to do. Now, if this is the logic we're going to follow, then which element should we be attacking? That's our next question, because we're given these number of these elements. This is the first array which can be changed. Should we attack 1? Should we attack 2? Should we attack -3? In fact, if you go back to the question, and we had got the solution that we are supposed to attack -3 and make it 7, how did we even know we are supposed to make -3 as 7? Why didn't we just make 2? Well, to find out which element to attack, what we should do is we should attack each element one by one, get the new sum and see which sum is the least. Because just by looking at the element, we can't say if this is the right element to attack or not. So what we'll do is we'll go to each element one by one. We'll go to 1, we'll go to 2, we'll go to -3. If there were more elements, we will go to even more elements, and we will see which one is it that we should attack. All right. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go to each element. That is, for each element, we are going to increase it or decrease it by the maximum possible modifications. And once we increase or decrease it, we will see what is the new sum. And once we get the new sum, we will see if that is the least sum possible. Okay. The last two steps, if you didn't understand, don't worry. I'm going to take the example and see. Okay. So let's say this is the array. What we had was original sum as 19, is which we calculated earlier, which is 1 into -2 plus 2 into 3 6 plus -3 into -5, that's plus 15. So that's our original sum, 19. Now let's say we had attacked 1. If you're going to attack 1, that means we can either increase it by 2 5 times or decrease it by 2 5 times. Why 5? Remember, 5 is the number of modifications we are allowed for this input case. We are allowed k modifications, and in this case k is 5. Okay, so for those of you who have just logged in, this might be you have just come in the middle of the problem. I would suggest you rewind a little bit, understand the problem, and then go in. And also make sure you say hi on the chat, hi or hello on the chat, so that we know you're over here. And any doubts, any questions, we're going to answer at the end of the session. Okay, coming back. So what we have over here is, we said we are going to attack 1. We want to attack 1. You can either attack 1 and increase it by 10, that is 5 times increasing by 2, or decrease it by 10, that is 5 times decreasing by 2. Okay, if we increase it by 10, it will become 11 into -2, that is the new product will be 11 into -2, which is -22. And if we increase it by 10, then it will become -2 into -2, which is 18. Because of this, the new sum will become -1. That is, in the original sum was 19. We remove the previous value, that is 1 into -2 is -2. We remove this and we add -22. Why did we add -22? Well, -22 was the lesser one. Remember, we have to reduce the product, that is reduce the sum. So we choose the minimum product. Let me recap. We can either increase 1 by 10 or we can either decrease 1 by 10. Which one should we choose? Should we increase it by 10 or decrease it by 10? Well, we should increase it by 10, sorry, because the sum would be -22. That -22 is going to reduce our overall sum, which is the goal. So if we increase it by 10 and choose this, we will have -22 over here. Now, in the new array, if we increase it by 10, what we will have is we have to remove the previous sum. The previous sum was 1 into -2. So we removed the previous sum and we added the new sum, which is -22. We added the new sum. So that will be 19 minus -2, which is 19 plus 2, which is 21, minus 22, which is -1. So the bottom of the story here is, if we increase or if we modify 1, then our new sum will be -1. So that is, we attacked the first element. Now we should try to attack the second element. Let's try to attack the second element over here. When we attack the second element, what happens? We can either increase it by 10 or decrease it by 10. If we increase it by 10, that becomes 2 will become 12. 12 into 3, 12 into 3 is nothing but, just 36. And or we can choose to decrease it by 10, which is -8 into 3, which is -24. So when we decrease it by 10, 2 will become -8 into 3, which is -24. Of both of these, which one will we choose? We will choose -24. So we remove the previous sum. The previous sum was 6. 2 into 3, 6. We add the new sum, which is -24. So 19 minus 6 minus 24 is 19 minus 30, which is -11. So -11 is better than -1 that we had got. So for now, if we attack 2, it is better for us than attacking 1. Okay, now let's try to attack -3 as we had done initially. If we try to attack -3, what we can do is either increase 3 by 10 or decrease 3 by 10. If we increase 3 by 10, the new sum will become 7 into -5, which is -35. If we decrease 3 by 10, then what will happen is it will become -13 into -5, which is 65. Obviously, we should choose -35. If we choose -35, then we remove the previous sum, add the new sum, and we get -31 over here. So of all the three, that is attacking 1, 2 and -3, attacking of all the three, the best thing to choose is to attack -3. I hope you understood that. We are choosing which array to which element to change, that is of the first array, which is the only array that we can modify. We have to choose which element to change, that is which element to attack. We can attack by increasing by 2 or decreasing by 2 k times. In this case, k is 5, so we can either increase by 10 or decrease by 10. And once we do that, we have to see which is the element which by increasing or decreasing by 10 gives us the minimum sum of the products. Okay, just again take a minute to understand what's happened over here, to understand what is the sort of logic that we have used before going forward. Okay, so make sure you are following this up by writing it on a piece of paper, and make sure that you have a pen and write on piece of paper. That is really important. That is what I do till date for all of the questions that I encounter. Okay, so let's look at what could be the pseudocode for this. And to get what could be the pseudocode, let's look at what is really the input like over here. So let's go back to the input, and we have over here the input. So the input format is like this. The first line contains t, which is the number of test cases. This is very standard in most Code Vita questions. You have to first input t, that is the number of test cases. So the first line will contain t. After that, we will contain n and k on a single line. That is, on a single line, you will have both n and k. When you get both n and k, what you're going to get is n is the size of each array A and array B, and k is the number of modifications you can make. So in the example that we saw, the number of modifications you could make was 5, k was 5 over there. All right. So what we have over here is the first line is we should take t, then n and k. Followed by that, we will get both array A and array B. So let's at least write the pseudocode for getting the input. So just switching to that, the pseudocode over here would be input number of test cases. So that's, as we said, that's t. Then for I from 1 to test cases, that is for each test case, what we're going to do is we're going to take n and k. That is, n is the size of the array, k is the amount of modifications we can make. Then we take input array A, input array B, and I'll just come to this part in a bit. The first thing I want you to understand is there is no syntax for pseudocode. This might look like some language, but it is really not any language. It is a language that only me and you can understand. The computer will not understand this language. It is not meant to be correct in terms of syntax. It is meant to be correct in terms of logic. So this is pseudocode. It is only logically correct. If you enter this in any compiler, it will not compile. But it is only for me and you to understand. And once you write this pseudocode, you will have proper clarity. And with that clarity, you can actually go and attempt the code, which we will also do. All right. So this should be simple. If you look over here, we have written input A, which is inputting of the array A. Inputting an array is not a one-line command. You have to write 2-3 lines for it. But what we're saying here is basically you just have to input the array. So I'll come to that also. Now what we'll do is we'll take the original sum to be 0 and the new sum also is, let's say, 0. Okay. Then the first thing that we're going to do is we will, once we have the array, we'll try to calculate the original sum. So the original sum, that is without any modifications, will be calculated like this. We go over each element in the array, in both the arrays, and once we go through each element, we will add it to our sum by multiplying them. So again, just going back, that would be nothing but 1 into -2 plus 2 into 3 plus -3 into -5. That is, we're going to each element in the array, and in each element we are going to multiply them and add them to our sum. So just going back to our pseudocode, what we have here is we are going to add the sum, we are going to add the product into our sum. Once we did that, let's also assume that the new sum is equal to the original sum. So till here, I hope we are clear. Don't look at the rest of the part. Let's just first clear over here. We have the input, that is the test cases. For each test case, we will take n, that is the size of the array, and k, which is the amount of modifications allowed. We will take A and B, which are the input arrays. A is modifiable, B is not modifiable. We will take original sum is equal to 0, new sum is equal to 0. Just initialize the sums. Then what we're going to do is calculate the original sum. Alright. So now that we have calculated the original sum, let's assume for a moment that the new sum is equal to original sum, which is nothing but the new calculated sum that we need to bring out, that is the least possible sum after k modifications, will be stored in new sum. Now comes the interesting part. What we're going to do is we're going to see that the current product is equal to aj into bj, right? Which is, why do we even need the current product? Well, we need the current product because when you again go back over here, if you remember, we will take the original sum, we will remove what is the current product, and we will try to add the new product. That is, we need the old product, that is -2 over here, 1 into -2. We need to remove it, and we need to add the new product if we had attacked this element. So that is exactly what this pseudocode is going to do over here. We're going to do current product is aj into bj, that is what is without any modifications. What is the product of the two elements that we are on right now? Okay. Once we have done that, then what we're going to do is we're going to see what happens if we attack this element. If we attack this element, we can either increase it by 10 or decrease by 10 if k is 5, or increase by 2k or decrease by 2k the current element. So the increase by 2k is this case, the decrease by 2k is this case. So if we increase by 2k and then take the product, or decrease by 2k and then take the product, we will get two answers. We have to choose the minimum of these two answers. Again, going back to the example, we have two answers, increasing by 2k or decreasing by 2k, and we have to choose the minimum of them. Here we have chosen -22. Okay. So coming back to the pseudocode, we will take two cases, that is increase this current element, that is attack this current element and increase by 2k, or decrease this element by attacking by 2k, and choose which is the minimum product of both of these. If once we know the minimum product, which is stored in select_prod, we are going to do exactly that. We are going to ignore this part for now, but this part will store this into a variable called temp sum. That is, we will remove the current product and add the selected product. Again, going back to the example, we had one second. Yeah. So we would remove the current product and we will add the selected product. So that's exactly what we're going to do here. We are going to, from original sum, remove the current product and add the selected product. If this temp sum is less than our current new sum, which is currently our new sum holds the original sum, if this temp sum is less than new sum, then we update new sum with temp sum. This is a very common pattern whenever we're finding the minimum sum possible. So I'm sure you might have seen this pattern, but if the temp sum that we get is less than the new sum, we will update the new sum. And then we'll do this loop again for the next element. And then once we attack that, we will see if that sum is less than our new sum. If it is, then we will update the new sum again. Finally, at the end of this loop, we are going to print new sum. Okay, all right. Now, as you can see, step by step, we have constructed a pseudocode. For many of you, this might be like we went too fast. Don't worry, I have condensed this, but it's completely fine if it takes you more time to understand it. It's better that you get this practice now before Code Vita. Alright, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to exactly translate this pseudocode into code. For coding, I am going to use the Java programming language, and I'm going to be doing it on IntelliJ IDE code, but you can use any programming language. In fact, this particular code, if you do in Python, it is faster. But doesn't matter which programming language you use. You can use Python, C, C++, Java, anything is fine. I'm going to do in Java because I'm more comfortable in it, but you can use any programming language. It's completely okay. So what I want you to understand from here is not Java. What I want you to understand from here is how I take this pseudo code and I'm going to translate it into an actual code. All right. And you will see that one by one, it's almost the same. It's just that we're going to translate this pseudo code into an actual code. So let's get that started. Let me just open up my IntelliJ IDE. And meanwhile, if you have any doubts regarding the pseudocode, please post it on the chat. If you have any doubts regarding Code Vita, please post it on the chat. My team is online. At least say hi so that we know you're online. My team is online, and just I think we are going to finish this question in another 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, I'll be more than happy to answer all of your doubts. So just going back to IntelliJ, that is where I will write my code. Remember, what is the first thing that we're supposed to do over here? The first thing that we're supposed to do is take the test cases and take the input both of the n, k, and input the arrays. So let's write the code at least for that much. All right. So first is the test case, and then we have to input n, k, and input the arrays. All right. So just shifting to that. This is my IntelliJ code, and let me just zoom in a little bit so you can see. So what I have over here is I've defined a scanner. Scanner is to take inputs. For those of you in C, C++, and Python, you can completely ignore that. I know that there is no such concept in any of these languages, right? So what is the first thing that we're supposed to take? We're supposed to take the test case, which is int t, and so let us take that. And as you can see, this is the reason why I like to use the IDE, because it gives me a lot of autocomplete features. So we're going to run this t number of times, so that's I have written a loop for that, while t minus minus greater than 0. The next thing that we're supposed to take input is we are going to take input the value n and the value k. So int n, sorry for that, int n is equal to scan dot next int, and int k is equal to scan dot next int. And what are these values? N is size of the arrays and k is number of modifications allowed. All right. So now that we know this, the next thing that we're supposed to take is input an array. Now, what I like to do is, if this is an input array, I'll actually write a function for it rather than writing the entire code over here. Let me first write a function for this, and then we'll just call that function. So writing a function for it, let me write a function called input arr, which takes in the size of the array and takes in that input. So what we're going to do is write a for loop, and this is again the good part. See, it's giving me an autocomplete of for loop, and this is how I take an array input. I'm sure you must have done this before, but I'll just show it to you. So let's say the array is int arr. So we first created an array of size, and after that we're going to take that input. So I is equal to scan dot next int. All right, and then we'll return that input. So now what we're going to do is we'll call this function to help us take input an array. And what is the first one that we're going to take? That's nothing but a. So a is equal to new int what is that, size n, and a is equal to, or better yet, let me do this, int a is equal to input array n. All right, so it's going to take input an array n, and again we're going to do the same thing for b. Now notice I did not have to repeat the same code for b. That is, I can just take the input array function and use that for a and use that for b. So I've taken both the inputs. This is the array that is modifiable, array which can be modified. Okay, now before I go on, this is one tip for you. This is generally seen by experienced programmers, and so I'll just share this tip, and it will be really useful for you when you actually do Code Vita. What I've done here is a little bit wrong, and I'll tell you the reason for that. Okay, and the reason for that is, if you look at the question, and I'm just going back to the question again, if I was you, I would have done exactly the same thing. But if you look at the question, there is one part that we missed out, And the part that we miss out here is that the constraints are that AI and BI are going to be less than equal to 10 raised to 5. Now 10 raised to 5 can fit into an integer, that's completely fine. But one of the problems that we're going to face is the products of these may not be fit into an integer. So the products of AI and BI may not fit into an integer because they could get really large. So let's take all of the values in long. Let's not take it in integers. Let's try to take it in long, so that even though we can store AI and BI in integers, the product of them may not be able to store in an integer. So let's take it in long and let's see what the answer would be. Okay, so I'm going to switch back to IntelliJ and I'm going to make sure that all of my calculations are actually happening in long and not int, so that I have even more space. First thing I'm going to do is take this as an array of long. So I'm going to just convert all of these as long. Okay, and 1 second, let me just make it next long. And also array A is long and B is also long. All right, so I've converted everything to long. Now again, notice that you might not have caught this if you didn't have enough practice. So I really suggest that you'll do a lot of practice so that you can come against such test cases, because your logic might have been correct, but you might have missed out because of this one test case. All right, so now that I've made my A and B as long, what is the next thing that I was going to do? So let's just go back to the pseudocode and just opening up the pseudocode over here. Okay, I took input A, I took input B. My original sum and new sum I have to define to 0, and I have to take the sum of the products. So let us code till here. That is, define original sum, new sum, and make the code, calculate the original sum. So let's do that. Just shifting back. What we're going to do is nothing but take long original sum is equal to 0 and long new sum is equal to 0. Okay, and then we want to calculate the sum. So let's do that. That is, for I equal to 0, I less than n, I plus plus, we're just going to calculate the sum, and the sum would be original sum is equal to original sum plus the product of A and B at these values, AI into BI. All right, so now we have calculated the original sum. This is the part where we calculated original sum. We'll assign new sum is equal to original sum. Alright, so far so good. We have calculated this. Now again, let's go back to the slides and let's go see our pseudocode. What is the next thing we're going to do in the pseudocode? And as per the pseudocode, what we ought to do right now is we have to calculate a current product. Okay, that we can do. We should also be calculating a minimum. That is, when we select the product, we have to do a minimum. Now this minimum is not a built-in function, so we will have to write a minimum function. So before we even start to do these parts, because really everything else seems simple, let's take the minimum over here. So let's write a function for minimum. So just again jumping back to my IDE, and here I am. Let's write a function for minimum. Let me write that over here. So minimum, that is static minimum, static, and it will be of long type because we're going to use longs a lot. Minimum, it's going to take two values, long, let's say A and long B, and the purpose of this minimum function is, given two values, it just returns the least value among the two values. So it's a simple comparison. That is, if A is less than B, then we should be returning A, else just return B. Okay, so that's really what we are supposed to be doing in this one. It's as simple as that, and we'll use this minimum function to do our next calculations. All right, so the next part was we are going to go through the array again, and once we go through the array, we'll use a for loop to go through the array. Once we go through the array, what did the pseudocode say? Well, let's just jump back to the pseudocode and see what it has said. What we have to do is we have to calculate the current product, and we have to take the select, we have to calculate both the current product and we have to calculate the select product, and select product is nothing but this entire thing that we have discussed. Okay, so let me do this. Let me just copy what all I'm supposed to do and take it as a comment so that we are all on one page. Okay, so just going back. This is what is left now to do. Uh, right. So what I'm supposed to do right now is take the current product. So the current product is nothing but let me just define long current product is equal to let's say 0, right? And I have to also do a long select underscore prod is equal to 0. Okay, any other things I have to define? I have to define a long temp underscore sum which is equal to 0, and I have to also, let's say, take long new sum we have, original sum we have. Yeah, I think we should be good to go. So what I'm supposed to do is, let's say I take the select underscore prod, one second, let me take current underscore prod is equal to aj ai into bi. All right, that's cool. Once you've done that, we have to take the select underscore prod is equal to the minimum of, and again, as you can see over here, my ID is prompting me what are the two values that I should be passing. Well, I should be passing two things. The first thing is ai into ai plus 2 into k. If you remember, we had taken k earlier. K into bi, either this, or we have to choose ai minus, that is if we attack it and decrease it, minus 2 into k into bi. All right, so we have to choose the minimum of these two, and that will come into select prod. Once we have taken that, what you do is store it into a temp sum. So the temp sum is original sum minus current underscore prod plus select underscore prod. All right, we're good to go here. And now what you're supposed to do is, if temporary sum is less than new sum, then new sum should be equal to temporary sum, which is another way of saying that new sum should be the minimum of temp sum and new sum. I hope you got that we have to just choose the minimum of both the temporary sum and the new sum and store that into new sum. Once this is done, we just print the value that is new underscore sum. All right, let me just take this comment away and let me zoom out a little bit. Okay, and so as we can see over here, what we've done is we've exactly what our pseudocode was, we have tried to translate it into the code. Now, not always will this work out like this. Like, I'll try to run it. I don't know if I'll get any errors. Generally, when you translate your pseudocode directly into code, there will be some errors. That is understandable. It's completely fine. Don't worry about it. Look at the compilation errors or any errors you get and try to fix them. Okay. So what we're going to do right now is we'll run this and also take a sample test case and see if that's actually giving us the correct answer. So first, let us just try to actually run it and see if it's compiling, and it looks mostly like it's compiled, so that's the good part. Now let's try to take a sample input. So just shifting back, what is the sample input for us? The sample input here is this one. So 1 3 5 1 2 minus 3 minus 2 3 minus 5. So I just copied that. Let me paste it in my console so that we go back. Okay, and let's just press enter. So I hope you all can see, and gives us the answer minus 31. So as per our code, at least this is correct. As per our logic, if you remember, the answer is should be minus 31. So what we're going to do next is we're going to just take the entire code, copy it and enter it on the Edyst platform, which has more than one test case. So let me just show you that. Let me go back to the Edyst platform and and let me enter the code here. Now the Edyst platform also has a coding editor, and you are feel free to use it. In fact, many students do. But I would suggest that during Code Vita, you're not going to get an online editor. You just get a place to submit your code. So I will suggest that you are well versed with one compiler at least. It can be Visual Studio Code, it can be IntelliJ IDE, whichever. It's up to you. We checked our answer with just one test case, which was over here. There are more test cases given, but let's just run our code and see if it's working for some of the test cases. And again, this is one of the benefits of being on the Edyst platform. Oh, great, we passed the test cases, but it's one of the benefits that if you had have just written this code by yourself earlier, then you would have checked, hey, it's passing for -31 and we are happy. But you're not checked with all of the test cases, and that's exactly what we have over here. When you submit, we will check with more than one test cases. In this case, I think we're going to check, so we're checked with almost 5 test cases over here, and if it passes all 5, then you know that you've written a correct code. So that's it. I have written a correct code, but again, this is because I've solved this problem earlier, and that's why I've been able to crack it easily. It's completely fine if it takes you more time than this. Ideally, this question should take you, with good practice, about 40 minutes to do, or 45 minutes to do. Anything more than that, then that's bad. But if you're able to solve this problem by yourself in 45 minutes, that's really, really good. And if you're able to get to that level, then that's amazing. So this is what we did. And again, if you notice, there was a small issue that we had in the start, that is we had taken as integer, but rather we should take as long. Again, this only comes with experience. This only comes after reading the entire question properly. So please do a lot of practice by yourself, and then only you'll be able to get this. Those of you who are coding in Python, you will not face this issue because really there's no bounding in Python as such. But for those of you who are in C, C++, and Java, definitely you will come into this issue. So don't forget to always read the constraints, especially look at the constraints for K, look at the constraints for N. If you would have taken it as int, then there's a good chance that all of the test cases may not have passed, because some of the products might have overflowed because they are really, really big products, right? So just again, coming back, and let's just recap the entire thing. Let's just take 2 minutes and recap the entire thing. What we've done is we had to do k modification. So we decided that we're going to just attack a single element, and we're not going to go through all of the we're not going to distribute the modifications. We'll take one element and we'll attack it. Which element to attack? Well, to choose which element to attack, we, for each element, we increased it and decreased it by a certain amount, and saw what is the effect on the sum. And once we got the effect on the sum, we chose the one which is having the maximum effect on the sum. All right, so that is what we did. If you notice here again, if I can just go back to the pseudo code for a bit, this is what CodeVita is really famous for. Even though there was only one thing that we were supposed to do, that is find the minimum product possible, we ended up writing so many other functions. Like I wrote a function for inputting an array. I wrote a function for finding the minimum. We wrote this temporary sum in this way. This is really what CodeVita is famous for, that is breaking down the given problem into sub problems. For example, how do we find out the updated sum? You could have taken the sum again of the entire array, but over here we just subtracted the old sum and added the new sum. That's all we did. These are small tricks that you should really pick up on, and CodeVita is really famous for this, of taking a problem and breaking it down into different problems and then solving each one of them separately. So that's about it from my side about the problem. What I want to again just make a small announcement before we go on to Q&A. If any one of you have any questions or any doubts regarding what all we have solved right now, please make sure that you post it on the chat. My team is here. They'll tell me whichever questions you have. Or you can also log into the Edyst platform and you can chat with me, and I'll show you how to do that. So one announcement that I want to make is we have one more webinar coming up on the topic of arrays. That will be again on Saturday, 22nd June. That's day after tomorrow, 5:30 p.m. IST Indian time. 5:30 p.m. We're going to be doing this famous problem called Chakraview. It's a very interesting problem. It has not so logical as this one, but it's very implementation based. So if you are confused on how to actually write code for such complex problems, I will write the code in front of you live as I have written it over right now over here. So please mark your date. The best thing to do is subscribe to this channel so that you will get notified when we do a next webinar. So I'll just stop here right now. I'm waiting for a few question and answers, so I'll just stop here. But meanwhile, do make sure you share this video with your friends so that they also find out how to solve a Code Vita problem. Make sure you like this video and make sure you also subscribe so that you know any other problems that come up, you will be notified of it. So I'll just take about a 2 minutes, or sorry, a 2 seconds pause and just go to my team and just take up any questions that are there. So yeah, any questions for me right now?
What are the other options other than IntelliJ IDE which you suggest?
Okay, so one of the questions that I've got is this is IntelliJ IDE that I have. What are the other options apart from IntelliJ IDE? Well, to be very honest with you, it completely depends on which language you are going for. So if you're going for C or C++, lately I have realized that Visual Studio Code is a really good platform for you to do. In fact, if you take Visual Studio Code, there are so many plugins that you can make it good for Python, you can make it good for C++, C or Java. It's completely okay for any one of them. So if you don't know, or if you don't want to install multiple softwares, go for Visual Studio Code. It's really good. But if you want to go specifically for each language, then for Python, please go for PyCharm. For C, C++, you can go for Visual Studio Code. I'm not a big fan of the other ones. For Java, I personally prefer IntelliJ IDE. But again, if you go for Visual Studio Code, that's also very good. Yeah, other questions?
Should I start with math and calculation before I practice arrays, or I can start with any of this chapter?
All right, very good. So one of the questions that we have got is the topics that we had shared with you earlier, and let me just open up those right now. So let me just open that up. Okay, yeah. So these are the topics for Code Vita 2019, which is maths, calculation, arrays, strings, searching, sorting, backtracking graphs, and there's a little bit of file reading. Now, on the Edyst platform, we have structured it such that you should do maths and calculations and arrays. But if you are confident in arrays and not so good at calculations, please go ahead and do arrays. There's nothing stopping you as such from not doing arrays. It's completely fine if you didn't do calculations, you can still go to arrays. My only suggestion is try to do maths before you go to arrays, because there are some topics of maths that come in arrays. But calculations, even if you skip, it's fine, you can go directly to arrays. It's not really dependent on calculations. But if you are able to do arrays, then you will be able to do calculations also. So yes, there's no dependency, you can go directly to arrays, but do a little bit of maths, you will get good practice.
So you explain in Java, but I do not know Java. Can I get support in any other language when I buy CodeVita disk?
Okay, so one of the questions that we have got is I have explained it in Java, but you don't know Java. And if you buy this Edyst pack, then will you even get support in other languages? Absolutely, yes, you will get support in all of the languages, because first things first, let me just show it to you. If you just open up, actually, let me just 1 second. If you open up the question over here, like let's say this question, Stone Game 1-4, you can do in any one of the languages, C++, Python or C, any one of them is fine. We don't have support for PHP or Perl, but these are the most famous languages. So one is you can code completely on the Edyst platform in any of these languages, and it's really okay. So you can choose any of these languages, and that's fine. Second, yes, there will be support. Even though I am more comfortable in Java, I know both Python and C++ and C. And if your code is given in C, C++, Python, I will be able to debug. My team is over here; they will be able to debug. That's completely not a problem. In fact, the last 2 days, I have had some students who have been coding only in Python, and I've helped them out as well. So there's no restriction on that. It's just I am a little bit more comfortable in Java, but I can help you out in all of the other languages, and all of my team can also help you out in all of the other languages also. Additionally, let me just show you one thing. If you go over here, there is something called forums, and in the forums you will see that, oops, sorry, I just got logged out. Let me just log in once again. So on the forums you will see that there are questions on all of the topics, so you can, okay, let me just switch back. But yeah, so on the forums you will see that there are questions on all of the topics, and you can come in and do you can ask questions on any of the languages and it will still work for you, so there's no problem in that. Any other questions?
I mean, it's like a suggestion. Can you please discuss a problem on permutations and combinations. Do you have any suggestions where I can practice such questions?
Okay, so one of the questions one of the users has asked is, can you please cover questions on permutations and combinations, and can you suggest some material for that? Well, the main thing you need to remember in permutations and combinations is your NCR and NPR, and also what you need to do. There's one specific thing called format's little theorem, which is the other thing that you should know. Both of these things we will be covering on the Edyst platform. So if you try to go and try to study right now on combination permutations and combinations, then you're going to get stuck in a lot of other stuff. There will be a lot of maths involved. What we'll do is we'll teach you exactly the 2 3 things you require for NCR and NPR, and those tutorials are actually coming up, I think, by tomorrow or day after, so that will also be up for you. So the best place to actually study NCR and NPR is go open your maths textbook or log into this platform, and we're happy to help. And just before I go on to the next question, as I was discussing earlier about the forums, so if at all you're stuck, you can either reach out to me. Um, one second. Yes, you can either reach out to me on the chat. As you can see, a lot of people do reach out to me on the chat over here, or you can also reach out on the forum. And as you see, some people have posted. This person has posted in Python, whereas this person has posted in Java, and I'm answering to all of them. So there's really no restriction on which language you are doing. All right. So yeah, for forums and for chat, you can use any language. And for NCR, NPR, and all these other things, know the formula properly. And for to efficiently find NCR and NPR, we are going to upload some tutorials right away. Okay. What other questions are there?
What are the major math topics?
Okay, so what are the major maths topics? That's one of the questions that have been asked. And let me actually open up the maths questions so you'll get a fair understanding of them. Uh, the major maths topics are something to do with games. These are all the games questions, and we've analyzed all of them. In fact, number game is a very special question which we're releasing a tutorial for. But all of these are just basically simulations. That is, you'll be given a few games and you've been told to find the output for it. So just to give you an example, let's say of there's a thing called game of primes. You're given 2 series in game of primes, and you're supposed to tell. So one second, let me just show you. So you've been given that this series. You've been given a range x and y, and you've been told between x and y find all the numbers that are all prime numbers and also another number. So it's called a number of game. So really here what you need to know is either both prime numbers and how to calculate this given series. So that is one type of questions that is asked in games. The other type of questions is really about counting the number of factors. Okay, sorry, I didn't open it here. Let me just open it for you. Yeah, so that is about counting the number of factors and counting or calculating a sum in a very special way. So those are the kind of questions that can be asked in maths. All right. Any other questions?
So, what are the timings when they can? I mean, on the Addis platform, is there any particular
Okay, is there
timing
any
or?
particular timing for the Edyst platform? Well, the Edyst platform is open 24/7. You can actually ask questions at any given time. You can run your code, you can submit your code any given time. We have some users who actually come online at 3 a.m., 4 a.m. In fact, I don't know if it's here, but I received forum questions at around sometime like you can see over here 3:16 a.m. One user has posted the question 3:16 a.m. So really you can use the Edyst platform at any time. To get support fully, there are 2 things you can do. I am online most of the day from 10 a.m. to about 10 p.m. So at any given time you can ping me. But also the good part is there are other people like you who are preparing for Code Vita. So these are all the people like you who are preparing for Code Vita. You can reach out to them, and like I said, there are people online most of the time. Let's say someone is not online, please go to the forum, post your question, and you will get an answer the next morning also. So there's no timing as such for Edis platform. It's about how much time you put into it, and that's how much benefit you will get out of it. Right. Any other questions? Should we wrap up?
Yeah, how long will it take me to prepare for Code Vita?
Okay, so the standard question, and I think we will finish up with this question. So the main question that we always get is, how long will it take me to prepare for Code Vita? Well, the first things first is please check with your college when you are supposed to give Code Vita. Please check with your placement office, because for some people the date is late, and for some people the date is really early. So please check with your placement office. It is 20th June already, and to be honest, it's like very close to Code Vita. The best thing you can do right now is get lots and lots of practice and get some shortcuts along the way. So like I said in this tutorial, there was that shortcut of changing the int into long. Try to get more of these shortcuts and don't spend time in learning the theory of it. Don't try to like learn combinations, permutations, try to do all those questions. Just learn enough for Code Vita, and try to get as much practice as possible. So today, if you start spending about 6 hours every day, then in the next 1 week or 2 weeks you can be ready. But again, please make sure that you check with your college when your Code Vita is. And if it's, let's say if it's in the next 10 days, then you need much more than 6 hours. So and if you don't have that much time, then please be careful, because we want you to really succeed in Code Vita, and we want you to get the proper practice before you go ahead to Code Vita. So anytime, anything between 6 to 8 hours every day starting today, then you will have a good chance of clearing Code Vita. And as always, if you clear Code Vita, then there's a good chance you get a direct interview opportunity with TCS. You won't need to write an aptitude test, you won't need to write any verbal test or anything. You can get direct interview opportunities, so it's a really good opportunity for Code Vita. So I have time for one last question if there is a question. Are there any questions?
Dhamma is asking, I think related to this, but say something about hack with NPE.
Okay, so Vinay Kumar, hi Vinay. It's glad to see that you're online on all of our webinars. So he's asking, can you say something about Hack with Infi? Uh, Stay tuned for that. There are a couple of big announcements we want to make, so just stay tuned for that. We'll let you know about that also. But regarding Code Vita, I think that those are all of the questions. So just again wrapping it up, thank you all so much for being online. It makes it really worthwhile to solve this question in front of you when so many of you are there. I hope you found it worthwhile. If you liked it, please leave us a comment or just message something on the chat that you really enjoyed it. If there's any suggestions, please put it on the chat. In the next video, that is on Saturday, I will incorporate or I will include those suggestions, and I will make sure that I improve the webinar accordingly. And also please share with your friends, and please subscribe to this channel so that you will get all of the notifications when we launch the next videos. So thank you so much for being on this webinar. For any doubts, any queries, our email ID is mentioned below, and also our phone number is there. You can either phone it or WhatsApp it, and our team will be available to you to answer any of those queries. Thank you so much for being online. All the best to you for Code Vita. And yeah, if you want to interact with me, you can just log on to Edyst platform, and I'll be online over there. So please like and subscribe. That's the last thing I'll say. Please like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you all on Saturday, 5:30 p.m. to solve Chakraview. Right? So let's see you then. All the best, everybody, and bye bye. Have a great day and happy coding.